is. Yeah, it is. Well, they cleaned it out, flushed it out, and replaced the spacer. Put me a new spacer in there. So hopefully it'll stay clean and the antibiotics will fend off and kill whatever remaining MSSA there is.
Well, I hope so, man. I'm sorry to hear that, Chris.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks very much. Kind of puts me out of my flying gig for a while longer.
Well, yeah, I would say that I would say a cockpit is not conducive to knee flexibility.
No. How have you been?
I've been good, been real good actually. Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Um, I see. Hey, Wallace is on here. Naresh, Kendra, Don Dampier. Very good to see you guys. I didn't get to say hello to you guys. Um,
Hey, good afternoon, Don. How you doing there?
man, I'm great. I haven't seen you at a ball game in a while, man.
Hey, I've been watching on TV, man. They were red hot. I went to the Louisville game, and just I'm gonna try to get back over there, but our seats are kind of they lower level, but they're kind of blocked by the student section. But yeah,
Oh, well,
so
you have you been there since they renovated?
yes. I went to the Louisville game this year. That's why I found
Oh,
out what the seats were. But yeah, I'm gonna go back. Probably the last three games gonna be some super games. I'm
yeah.
not sure. I think we got the LSU game here, and
Yep.
I'm not sure the Texas game is here or not. But
Yep. Texas is as well.
yeah, that should be a pretty good game.
Yeah, it's gonna be hype, man. The girls they're so good.
Yeah, they are. This is probably one of the better teams we've had since I've been following them last 15, 20 years.
I think it's definitely the best team I've ever seen, and I've been doing it like 25 years. So,
Yeah,
and that Georgia Amore, my gosh, man,
I know. Yeah,
puts people on skates without even trying.
yeah, yeah.
She's amazing. But
Yeah, she is. She is.
all right, it looks like we're getting started here, so I'm going to mute
Okay,
everybody.
okay.
It's good to see
Welcome,
everybody.
everybody. Please stand for the inspiration or the test.
Definitely. Start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to and the four-way test. If it is true, it is fair to all concerned, but ships, but it be beneficial to all concerned. Have seats. Thought we'd have a little fun today. Super Bowl 59 will be played this Sunday at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans between the two-time defending champion Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. No cheers for the Eagles. Kansas City's trying to become the first team in the Super Bowl era to win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. Never been done. 9 teams have won the Super Bowl 2 times in a row. Packers, Dolphins, the Steelers twice, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Broncos, the Patriots, and of course the Chiefs. Here are some fun facts about the Super Bowl. Miami has hosted the Super Bowl the most with 11 times. New Orleans will tie that mark this year. The Lombardi Trophy, which is awarded to the Super Bowl winning team, weighs 7 pounds and costs $50,000. Super Bowl I, does anybody remember Super Bowl I except me? Super Bowl I was played on January 15th, 1967. The cost of a ticket, $12. It's more than that now. 62,000 fans attended at the Los Angeles Coliseum, which held 93,000. Wasn't even close to being full. 123.4 million people watched Super Bowl 2024, which seems like a lot. But when you compare it with the 2022 Soccer World Cup final, that 1.5 billion people watched, Maybe it's not so many. In 2024, a 30-second Super Bowl ad cost an average of $7 million. This year's ads are going for as much as $8 million. The first Super Bowl TV ads in 1967 were $40,000. Super Bowl Sunday is the second highest eating day in the United States after Thanksgiving. 1.25 billion chicken wings will be eaten. A lot of chickens. 11.3 million pounds of chips are purchased. 10 million pounds of ribs are sold during Super Bowl week. And my personal favorite, 325.5 million gallons of beer are consumed. And finally, in 2024, 68 million Americans bet $23.1 billion on the Super Bowl. Currently, the Chiefs are 1.5 favorites, and the over-under is 48.5. The biggest question of the year, of course, is Taylor Swift. The over-under on Taylor Swift being shown on the TV is 6.5. Enjoy the game.
Thank you, Phil. So according to my calculations, that's $7,000 per pound for the Super Bowl trophy. Here to introduce guests and welcome to our Zoom attendees, Mike Morrill.
It's always nice to have guests at Rotary. If you would want to mention your name, please stand up. Brigitte Blom brought Kirsten LaChance. Sean Lyon brought Misty back. Laurel Martin brought Malia Schmidt. Sean Lyon brought Lisa McKinney. Sarah Dina brought Matt Lockaby. And Buzz Carmichael brought Cassie Klein. Welcome. Let's give them a round of applause. Then we have one visiting Rotarian from India Atlantic, Florida. Just met him out there, Matt Morgan. Matt, hi.
How about that? Super Bowl coin is made 2 miles from his home. All right, and we're ready for the lottery. Chris and Bruce coming up for that. Cohesion, my company, has sponsored lunch for this month, and I am going to plug Chris's company. So Chris Anderson, come on up, take the stage and give your company a plug.
Hey, I'm with American Trust Company here in Lexington. And the most valuable characteristic of a good human relationship is love. The second one is trust. So we are only one of 3 independent trust companies in the state. We don't lend money, just help you make sure you don't run out of money. I have something that you may find useful. It's called the ICE form. It's in case of emergencies, where you list all your financial information, where your estate planning documents are, where your final directives, anything that you need to get put in the hands of a loved one in case something happens to you unexpectedly. So I'll be glad to hand these out. And we are looking for lunch sponsors. Your $21 does not cover the cost of this room. The club is out somewhere between $700 and $1,000 every meeting. So we really would be interested in having you be a lunch sponsor, and we can put plug in for your company. Thank you.
$1,000. $1,000.
Yeah, sorry.
700,000.
700,000. Yeah.
Wait, no, you meant,
It's 1,000.
you meant how much it costs.
Between 700 and 1,000.
Go ahead and call. Go ahead and call.
$676.
Looking for the jackpot.
427-4404.
Read the last 4 digits. Go ahead and call the other one. Got one? Kent, is that you? No?
Okay, last 3.
Last 4.
Last 4. 4350.
4350.
4350.
That was the second one. The first one.
The first one was 4404.
All right.
Here we go.
Come on down.
Come on down. Did we get the second one? Going once?
4350.
Oh, a heart.
Oh, Jack of Dollars. Yeah, looking for a Jack of Hearts, and it's just over $700.
Yeah, 600.
Go ahead and pull another one.
4382.
Got one, we got one.
Hey.
He's already won once.
I think.
Okay.
That'll give you that digital.
Okay. What we're looking for. Jack of hearts.
No cigar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it, Bruce.
Yeah.
Give it a hand. Remember, if you're interested in sponsoring and give your organization a plug all month long, please consider sponsoring one. Next, we've got some announcements. We've got, let's see, Mark, congratulations. We do the Rotary Leadership Institute, and Marcus Cross, are you here? Yes, Marcus Cross completed and achieved his certification through that. Give a big hand to him. And it's an amazing program. In our board meeting, there were a couple of Rotarians with 20 years experience that attended their first RLI meeting and they learned so much about it. So we encourage everyone to get involved in the Rotary Leadership Institute. Following this meeting is our membership committee meeting. We have a new initiative. It's very focused, very interesting. Membership for Rotary is the largest lever. The most important thing for our club is bringing new people to the organization. And if you're interested to get involved, please follow up, and Dylan will be here and will be leading that meeting. Harding, are you in the house? Okay. And Harding, to announce our newest Paul Harris Fellow. Harding. Thank you, sir.
Another fun fact, the Cleveland Browns have never sniffed the Super Bowl. Okay, I know we have a lot of new members in this club over the last few years, and I think it's phenomenal how we are growing with new members who want to be active in the community. I hope each of you learn about the Rotary Foundation. This is not the local endowment. This is the Rotary International Foundation. It's your foundation. Gave out $291 million in grants last year around the world. You're one of what, 1.5 million Rotarians in 34,000 clubs, 35,000 clubs around the world, who all give to the foundation to make it work. And so go to Rotary.org and learn about your foundation, please. The reason I'm telling you all this is because I want you to understand the importance of what the person who's being recognized today is doing, as so many of you have done by giving to the foundation. So today we're recognizing an individual in our club who is very active locally in our local club and does a lot to help all these new members come to know each other and get out in the community. But she's also an active contributor to the Rotary Foundation. And so when you give $1,000, you become a Paul Harris Fellow, but you can keep giving. And so today, I want to recognize a member who is a Paul Harris +2, which means she's given 3 times the amount to be one Paul Harris Fellow. Susan Adams. There's no stone in it. Is it coming? They don't do it anymore? Okay, I know that, I'm getting ready to say that. Okay. Anyway, Susan is naming her mother, Joanne B. Mesker, as a Paul Harris Fellow with her latest contribution. And so, as a great honor, her mother instilled in her and two sisters to get active in the community, do things for other people, service above self. And so, happy to present.
Thank you, Harding. Congratulations, Susan. Appreciate all you do. Celebrating birthdays today, or this week, Christy Pierce. You may have seen Christy Pierce's interview with Virginia Carter and the Living Legends, Bruce Bell. And birthdays today, Jeremy Maynard and Carrie Blaze. Let's sing the final verse of the Happy Birthday song on 3. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. And my favorite part of the announcements is introducing new members. Here to introduce our newest member is Brigitte Blom.
My pleasure to introduce one of our newest members, Kimberly Steele. Kimberly, if you'll stand up. All right. Yes, it is strategic to stand up on the stage here, right? And be a little bit taller for a change. So Kimberly is a retired school counselor from here in Lexington, and she also happens to be my neighbor. In the work of Rotary Service Above Self, our international mission could not be more like Kimberly than anybody else I know. So I'm pleased that she said yes to Rotary.
Welcome, Kimberly. Welcome, Kimberly. And now, Wanda, to introduce our next newest member, Wanda Bertram.
I'd like to introduce our newest new member, Dana Stefaniak, and she has spent her entire career working in the nonprofit field. And we first met each other in 1992, 33 years ago, when we were both starting our careers, and we were working together as loan executives for the United Way. So we have known each other a long, long time. Yeah, I can tell you, you are absolutely going to love this lady and her fun-loving golden heart of service. She went to Cardinal Hospital, where she became aware of the good works of Rotary. There were many telethons that benefited Cardinal Hill. She had stops at Habitat for Humanity and the American Heart Association, and now has landed at the Nest, which I'm sure you are very aware of. If you're not, you're about to be. Yeah. Dana has been the Nest director since last May, I think, as the director of Major Gives and Fun Giving. She lives in Winchester. Her service mindset is absolutely pervasive. Just ask her about Fairy Tales, TAILS, or her international travel and her numerous mission trips to Ecuador, which are tied to Rotary International, because she works with the Rotary International Club in Ecuador on those trips with her entire family. So if there is anyone out there
for anybody that may not click on the chat button, I have passed on to Dean that the Zoom feed has frozen and dropped off from the main on main. So I haven't heard back from him, but I'm sure that he's aware. So hopefully we'll get it back up and running in time to see at least a good portion of the speaker's presentation. So for those of you that are on specifically for that, I hope that that we can take care of that for you. But in the meanwhile, we're kind of in a holding pattern, so just bear with us. Or as they used to say, I'm showing my age here, back when they used to put the big screen on the television that said, "Experiencing technical difficulties, please stand by." So that would be me. But I'll get it. I'll see if I can get it taken care of. Meanwhile, if anybody wants to come off mute and talk amongst yourselves, that'll be fine. Okay, we're back, but we're muted. I'll pass that along.
Can't have a better person than Bill Wilson to introduce you, right? And there is no better person in the state to talk about the Prichard Committee and its history than Bill Wilson as well. So that little thumbnail sketch that you got of the Prichard Committee right there is fabulous, Bill. Thank you. Bill's been involved since 1984, I believe, with the Prichard Committee. The committee was founded as a nonprofit organization named after the chairperson of the Blue Ribbon Commission on Higher Education, Ed Prichard, in 1983. So Bill's been involved almost since inception. So it's always a pleasure. And Bill's the one who got me involved in Rotary. So I think what I'm going to share with you today is our 2025 National Rankings Report. And I believe the first issue of this report, the Big Bold Future 2020, I presented to you all at the Red Mile, when Rotary was still at the Red Mile. Jamie Schrader was president-elect at the time, putting the programs together. And it wasn't too many months after that Bill had me involved, and I've been involved ever since. And it's a pleasure to be with you all and to learn more about Rotary. It also occurred to me as I got more involved in Rotary that Rotary is the perfect organization to be partnered with the Prichard Committee. Before or as I was presenting to you all in 2020, I was presenting all across the state to Rotary clubs and continue to do that. So Rotary's mission of service above self and working locally around the unique needs of students and families is exactly what the Prichard Committee is striving to do today to move the needle on these outcomes. So without further ado, Kirsten, if you'll start to move us through the slide presentation. What we're releasing today to the media is a report, the updated report that the committee has been releasing since 2008. In 2008, the Prichard Committee started releasing a report called Top 20 by 2020. It included 20 indicators of Kentucky's ranking in education, early childhood through post-secondary, funding for education, things like that, every other year to better understand where we ranked as a state. And if we were moving forwards, we were moving backwards, we'd hit a plateau. Fast forward 2020, we arrived at that top 20 by 2020. And we were able to say to the state in 2015 that we were inching into, if not already, in the top 20 or top 10 in some rankings. An example of that was fourth grade reading, where in 2015, we ranked 8th in the nation. Unfortunately, by 2020, we had to start telling the state that we were beginning to decline in outcomes. So the Great March from the 1980s and 1990 that had continually been improving those rankings was beginning to slide down the hill, as it were. So my call to folks across the state has been, we cannot let the work of the first generation of this organization, of this movement, be for naught. It is incumbent upon those of us who are now picking up the work to continue to help to move Kentucky's education outcomes north into the top 20 of all states. What we have working for us today that we didn't have working for us in the 1980s and the 1990s is proof of concept. So we have proof of concept that in the 1990s and the early 2000s, we were indeed able to climb from the bottom of the national rankings to roughly the middle of the nation, depending on what indicator you were looking at. During that same time period, a state that is known for being best in class in education across the nation, some of you may know which state I'm going to call out, Massachusetts, went from middle to the top tier of the nation. So we can say we know how to do this as Kentuckians. We join together with a shared commitment, the right policy action and the right local commitment, we can make this happen. And that's my call to all of you, to our policymakers in Frankfurt today, is that we must return our rankings to a state of progress and realize that top 20, top 10, top tier in the nation. The way we do that today is a little bit different than the way we did it in the early days around the Kentucky Education Reform Act. In those days, we were really focused on state policy in Frankfurt. And while we continue to focus on state policy in Frankfurt, we also are asking communities to really come to the table with our schools and to leverage community assets to support student outcomes around the unique needs of students and families locally. So I'm looking back at Susie Basham, and when I see Susie, I think about the backpack program. So that's a great example of a community stepping up and saying, there are things we can do to help remove non-academic barriers so that the job of our teachers in our schools can take root around high quality teaching and learning and realize the outcomes for our students. So that's a great example of what Rotary can do, what a community can do in service to moving the needle on these outcomes. Before we move from this slide, that is groundswell. So on this slide, you see groundswell. That is building a groundswell, one community at a time, to move the needle on these outcomes, one community to move them statewide. So those economists, finance folks, accountants, Chris, I'm looking at you in the room. I'm thinking leading and lagging indicators. So what are the leading indicators in our communities that will result on the lagging indicators we want to see as a state? The last thing I'll mention before we move forward is in 2019 in this role, as I was looking over the history of the committee and the history of outcomes in the state, I could see and we could talk about the improvements we've made in K-12 education. All that while we were making improvements in K-12 education, we as a state were not moving the needle on poverty and breaking cycles of generational poverty. In Ed Prichard's words, our work is about achieving a path to a larger life for more Kentuckians. And so that cannot mean just K-12 education. It cannot mean that our work stops at high school graduation. It must mean that our work is about realizing stronger financial futures and quality of life for Kentuckians. And that's early childhood through post-secondary, with a focus on our state's approach to economic development. So that lingering at the bottom ranks of the nation in poverty is something that we need to set our sights on for the future. And all of these indicators should result in movement on that primary indicator. One of the ways we do this, as I've just described, if we think about an integrated early childhood K-12 higher education system that gets young people off to a strong start, allows adults to come back into training so that they can be sufficient in the workforce. And all of that has a ripple effect then into the early childhood space, where we end up with stronger outcomes for early childhood, and we begin to get stronger exponentially.
So right into the rankings, which is what I'm here to share with you. And on your table, there should be some copies of the report we're releasing today. So the 2025 national rankings, where are we? In some respects, this is the state of education, early childhood through post-secondary for the state. And you can see the rankings in the report. Some that I'm going to highlight so as not to spend too much time digging into all the details. Is fourth grade reading. Fourth grade reading proficiency, actually, I think we might need to update on this slide. I think it's supposed to be 12, maybe. So in your report, on your table, you should see that. Got it, yep. Fourth grade reading proficiency is one I mentioned as a state that was bottom of the national rankings in the 1980s for literacy. By 2015, because of a concerted effort, we'd climbed to 8th in the nation in fourth grade reading. Since then, and through the COVID years, we've dropped to 29th. When NAEP came out last week, which is our nation's assessment of education progress, our nation's report card, when NAEP came out last week, and we wait for that like it's Christmas, when NAEP came out, it showed that we had rebounded from 29th in the nation to 12th. Now that is really something to celebrate. That out, and it's a tribute to our educators, it's a tribute to our communities, it's a tribute to things like the backpack program, things like book distribution programs in our community. These things don't happen in an isolated way. They happen because the community and the state are rallying together to make it happen with a shared vision. The other thing that happened in the state, thinking about Frankfurt, is the passage of the Read to Succeed Act. 4 years ago, I think now, the passage of the Read to Succeed Act included has to date included $33 million for professional development for teachers around the science of reading. We're seeing that take hold, as well as the rallying around schools and communities at the local level to move the needle on this outcome and get back into the top tier of all states. So this is something we should be applauding and celebrating at the local level and the state level. All the while, it's not where we want to be. Even at 8th in the nation, we were leaving half of our kiddos behind in reading proficiency. That's commentary on the nation. Nonetheless, a point of brightness for the state. Another area is high school graduation. And each of you know that while high school graduation is important, and if you think back to the 1980s, the early 90s, when Kentucky had a real dropout problem, moving to 4th in the nation, again, a testament of shared commitment and shared work. We know high school graduation is not enough for our young people to be successful. We have to focus on attaching them in a meaningful way to post-high school pathways. And those post-high school pathways, realizing greater family self-sufficiency and education attainment that is part of our competitiveness with other states and other nations. But we should still celebrate being fourth in the nation in high school graduation. For post-secondary enrollment, we're hearing over and over again, and you probably have in the news, and you may know young people who are deciding not to go on to post-secondary. So our enrollment rate is declining. It's 46th in the nation. If we aren't enrolling young people, if young people are not deciding that's the right path for them, we're not going to realize the post-secondary attainment rates that fuel a research and development-based economy, an innovation economy, that fuel the healthcare field and STEM fields that will move our state forward. So this should be a concerning ranking for all of us. But on the heels of that, you see that we're 4th graduation from 2-year institutions. That's a tribute to the work that Kentucky's college and technical college system, career and technical college system, KCTCS, has done. I don't know if Augusta is here, but shout out to Augusta if she is here, who led Bluegrass Community and Technical College for years. So this another bright spot and an area to celebrate as a state. The takeaway here folks, and I'll go ahead and go to quality of life, Kirsten. The takeaway here is that when you hear folks, especially from border states, say that Kentucky is in the bottom, Kentucky's education is poor, you need to know that that is, while there are rankings that we need to continue to work on across the board, everything is not poor. And we need to celebrate areas where we are improving and pull together around the next area that we need to work hard on. When it comes to quality of life, this is the new piece that we added to the Big Bold Future report, or to the National Rankings report in 2020. We look at associate degree or higher in the state, and we want to meet the national average and beat it. We're not doing that right now. Even with our 2-year degrees being 4th in the nation, we're not meeting the national average for secondary attainment. So what do you think that does when we have businesses coming to Kentucky considering business location here? Voter turnout is something we rank, not because we do voter turnout work, but because voter turnout is a good national proxy for community engagement. And Kentucky's doesn't do bad here. Of course, it ebbs and flows based on whether there's a presidential election or not, and how much energy is behind those elections. But the fact of the matter is, we have relatively engaged communities in Kentucky, and Rotary is a testament to that. And that's something we can leverage as a state, because the ultimate impact of what we can do as a state doesn't come from Frankfurt. It comes from our communities. It comes from spaces like this. It comes from people you know, your neighborhoods, your churches, your schools, your communities, your libraries, your Boy Scout clubs, your Girl Scout clubs. That's where the real work happens. And I want us to own that as Rotarians, that we have a real role here to play on behalf of our entire state. Median household income, I opened this with, and that is that we have actually fallen in the rankings to now 4th from the bottom of the nation in median household income. So all of these things we're trying to improve, we're swimming against the tide. It's a more difficult environment than many other states have to make these improvements. So I'm going to come back to K-12 education for a moment, that core piece. And you can even think about early childhood here. If we're not doing our part from a policy standpoint and a community standpoint to remove non-academic barriers to success, to support families in the workforce with high quality childcare, we are making it even harder for ourselves to improve on these outcomes that will set us up for competitiveness economically and to support quality of life that allows us to use our public dollars in a richer and more effective way to move us forward. In the report that's at your table, you'll also see trends over time, and you'll see indicators broken out by different populations in our state. This is important because we need innovative and targeted approaches to improve these outcomes. Sometimes I shared with you 8th in the nation in 4th grade reading, and that behind that ranking, we still weren't getting enough of our youngsters at a level of reading proficiency. We need to be able to disaggregate data to better understand who we're serving well and who we aren't, and to make sure we're targeting approaches to neighborhoods, communities, and the populations who most need the supports to improve. And that's one of the reasons we do the disaggregated information in this report. Lastly, I think, Brett, you will let me know that I've just had a minute or so, 8 minutes, but I want to really open up for questions, because I know you all will have some good questions of me and some tough questions. And those are good too. Actually, go back to the groundswell map. And okay, I mentioned groundswell. So this is a map that's on our website. And again, I want to keep underscoring, yes, there's a policy angle here, without a doubt. But what we started doing in 2018 was say, we've got to do a better job supporting communities to be the first line of response for the unique needs of families and students. And we need to help communities better coordinate and align efforts to improve outcomes. So this map is where we have groundswell members in the state and where there are activities going on to support an area that a community wants to improve. An example is Owensboro, where they have worked with us. We've supported them in the background to launch a 5-year strategic plan to improve early childhood and the ecosystem and infrastructure that exists to support childcare and early childhood programs. They're 3 years into that effort right now, with all of the community leaders around the table, measurable outcomes that they're tracking, and beginning stories of success of what that work is resulting in. That's an example of a community-wide groundswell effort. But it's also things like the mayor in Covington, Kentucky, who launched a Read Ready Cov campaign to support early literacy in Covington. That was a mayor who said, I may not have any authority or accountability for education outcomes, but I do have a holy pulpit, and I have an opportunity to say that something like literacy is important to our community. And that work is starting to show promise as well. In Christian County, the Rotary Club has been committed to investing in transition success for high school students and ensuring that all Christian County high school students have a clear plan for transition and the supports that they need to access post-secondary education, pathways to training, whatever it is they need to be successful. The Rotary Club in Christian County has committed resources to that, and their foundation is dedicated to that in partnership with their community college system. So there's lots of opportunity, and I'm proud to be part of this club where we are also doing things, as I mentioned, to remove non-academic barriers, but would call on us to think even more intentionally about how, as a club, we can be part of moving one of the indicators in our own community that are so important for our future as a state. And Kirsten, with that, the final slide would be the community profile slide. So while today we're releasing a national rankings report, and many people will say, Brigitte, that's nice, and you shared with us some good information and some not so good information, but what can I do with it later? So we answered that question. In 2018, we started designing community profiles for all 171 school districts in the state. The updated community profile will come out next week with the updated data. It's your community, so Fayette County's information around kindergarten readiness through K-12 outcomes through post-secondary outcomes, with information about all the populations that live in our community, primary. And then the back page, it's a simple 4-page document. Are we realizing a path to a larger life for our neighbors in Fayette County? On the back page is a smattering of socioeconomic and health information, because none of this work in education we do in isolation of what happens for families in the space of income and housing and what happens for residents in the space of health. So we hope you will take that profile as community, whether it's 3 moms in the coffee shop who want to do something about kindergarten readiness for their Girl Scout troop, or the Rotary Club who wants to nail one of these indicators and skyrocket it to the moon for Fayette County. We want to support you in doing that. With that, yes. Lyle.
Okay. I wish I could see that backwards S better, but is the Fayette County on there or? Let's make
This is actually McCracken County's profile, Lyle, that you see on because it's just a photo. But on we have these currently on our website now, I think 3 or 4 years worth of them.
Oh.
The code will go to every county.
Okay,
Okay,
the
well, I
code,
really want to know where's Fayette County?
I didn't-
What's our greatest need?
yeah, I didn't bring Fayette County's profile with me, but I can get that to all Rotarians.
That'd be great.
Okay. What I do know is that the superintendent here in Fayette County has been doing really good work bringing the district's outcomes up post-COVID. There are areas where we all need to work to help that improvement. And I'll give that to you, Lyle. But I want you to get the hot off the presses version that's going to come out next week.
You might have said this, but is this data solely public education, public school?
The community, so something like NAEP is not just public schools. So it's the kind of the aggregate outcomes. When we look at K-12 education, that is our public education data for the state.
You feel like there's a direct correlation to the for post-secondary enrollment and our socioeconomic status in the state because of the cost of post-secondary?
Yeah, affordability is definitely an issue, and I think anybody who knows a young person has been weighing whether or not they go on to post-secondary education. The cost of college is a concern. So our young people have watched through the Great Recession, through recent years. They've watched the young people ahead of them graduate from college and have trouble finding jobs. They are concerned about the level of debt that they will have to take on to go to college. So absolutely affordability is an issue.
Last question.
I would take your data, looking at it, I expect your grade, so is it, are we talking at all the kids that are coming out of the high school and stuff and going into the trades? Like, not necessarily going into the yes, stuff like that, but going into, you know, plumbing and electricity.
Yep. Yes. So as part of our strategic plan, we're tracking all of that. And we are inching closer to the national average for any type of credentialing after high school. And Susie, what we encourage is it's about the right next pathway for young people. It's not just about 2-year or 4-year degrees, but it's about those credentials and certificates as well. And ensuring young people have on and off ramps, right? To go out, come back, and to build on credentials.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, very last.
I will be,
Very last.
one more.
Very.
Go ahead. If you were-
What are your thoughts about the potential loss of DOE funding for the study and potential decrease in state income tax?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that softball.
30 seconds.
So 30 seconds, Brett says. Okay, we're all watching what's happening with the federal government right now. If the Department of Education shifts the way it's funding, it's likely going to fund block grants to states. And it will be incumbent then on the General Assembly and Kentucky's Department of Education to make decisions about where those dollars go. Many of those dollars from the federal government are for special education, and I would expect that they would continue to go for that in the state. Are there other concerns we have about what that shift might result in from our nation being able to improve relative to other nations? There are. As far as your other question was state income tax. So here's what I say to legislators. There clearly is political will to move us to a tax structure that is similar to Tennessee's and Washington State's and Florida. Folks know who would talk about that tax code, they will call it regressive. And if you look at who's impacted most, lower income folks who use services more are impacted without a doubt. What I encourage our legislators to do to make that system less regressive is to ensure that we are investing in the means for young people, individuals, families to move forward financially. So that's how we ensure the investment in improving the lives of individuals and families will make the tax code less regressive. And if the political will is there to move in this direction, we need to make sure that investment's there if we're going to improve our state from a quality of life and an economic development standpoint.
Thank you so much, Brigitte, on behalf of the Rotary Club of Lexington and Bill Strauss.
Yes.
We have a custom lithograph. One more round of applause for Brigitte. It's pretty insightful. We look forward to seeing you next week. We are adjourned. Don't forget about our membership meeting immediately following this close.